always choose the lowest price unless you give them a reason otherwise. And so what we're offering here is convenience and customer experience are both reasons other than lowest price to choose something. You know, we have so much information now with technology, we have so much data, you know, at our fingertips, we know more. And when we know more, there's more things that our expectations change. But I'm Steve Jones. I've been with JLL for 26 years, and I lead our national, what we call our multi-site retail project management practice. Introductions?
Tim Reed, I'm Chief Development Officer for Alamo Drafthouse. I've been in the theater industry for over 40 years. Probably, I don't know, if you've been in the theater, I probably have been involved in some type of transaction involving that.
John?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. So I'm John Miologos. I am Senior Director of Store Development with Walgreens Boots Alliance. And I've only been there a couple of years. Prior to that, I was with WD Partners. I was the practice leader on the A&E side with my colleague Lee Peterson, who we've heard from yesterday. And then prior to that, I spent a few years at McDonald's Corporation as Corporate VP of Development globally for them.
Great. So how many here watch or have watched HGTV on television? Pretty much most of you. Or how about Pinterest? You know, either have a Pinterest account or look at that. So things like HGTV, Pinterest are giving us information. So our expectations are changing because of that. This on the left is the house I grew up in. My parents bought this in 1966 and passed away a few years ago. And so at that point, in order for me to maximize what I was going to get out of the house, I had to update it. Well, for my parents had lived there, you know, over 45 years, they were completely satisfied, you know, with the house that they grew up in. You know, they didn't grow up in the environment of HGTV and Pinterest and things like that. But today's environment has changed. So, you know, not only did I have to update the finishes, you know, in it, new cabinets, countertops, all of that, stainless steel appliances, but also opening up between the kitchen and the family room. You know, again, that wasn't a big deal to them. Now we know it, everybody wants that. So point is, with more information that we have that, our expectations have changed and it continue to do that. So we all have to understand that, you know, as retailers. So flip from that, the house that I currently live in, you know, I had built in 2000. We're going to sell the house. So 16 years later, I'm going to have to update our master bathroom. You know, my parents have been there for 45 plus years. I'm an architect. My degree was in architecture in the construction industry. Feel like I have a pretty reasonable design sense. Had the house built in 2000. I'm going to have to change it. You know, now that's frameless, you know, glass. They don't want the brass and things that were there, you know, 16 years ago. So in order to sell and maximize, but again, expectations have changed. Another example of that. I've been traveling for business for a long, long time, but it's only up until the last, you know, year or so that, again, my expectations have changed because of mobile devices and things like that. I get irritated when I go into a hotel and I have to wait to check in. If somebody's in front of me or they're asking me questions like, well, can you give me your credit card and all that? Well, you had that when I signed up. So again, our expectations are changing. So as retailers, we have to recognize that and sort of cater to what those customer needs are and, you know, what we're doing. Next, I'm going to kind of follow up on a few concepts, and then we'll kind of get into the convenience and the cost and the customer experience part of it. But so here's another, you know, idea: is Amazon, you know, taking over the world? And I'd often say that the answer is no. You know, right now, if you look at ICSC's stats, they say 8% of retail transactions right now is online. And of that, Amazon is, you know, maybe 1.5%, 2%, you know, of that. But we have to recognize that they're, you know, certainly a force to be reckoned with. So just this past weekend, my wife and I were out, and she started an online business. And so she was at one of the big box retailers looking for some packing things so she could ship off some of her products. Over there, check it out, and he said, well, before I go pay for this, let me just look on Amazon Prime. After looking on Amazon Prime, this packing material that she had, she found it twice the quantities at half the price on Amazon. So she ended up clicking, bought it on Amazon, and we left the store. From that, we were going to Home Depot, where she asked me, oh, where are we going? I said, we're going to Home Depot. I need to get a light bulb. So we started driving. My wife says, well, let me just check, Amazon Prime. And I'm driving. It's like, it's not on Amazon Prime, so I'm keep going. About 2 or 3 minutes later, she found it on Amazon Prime and bought it. And the point is, that's not your typical light bulb. I mean, that's a very unusual light bulb. And again, we found it there. So we have information, but those are basic things that I don't really have to see, feel, and touch, that I can get. Which leads us into kind of this section about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the whole concept behind this is as it relates to you as a retailer, is down there at the bottom element of that is your basic needs. And those can be very commoditized. So things that you can, you can buy on Amazon or things like that. But as it starts to go up, you need more of a personal touch point with that. But something like coffee, most of you probably consider a basic need after last night, that you need that. But Starbucks has taken it from being a basic need down there at the bottom to that belongingness and friends and all of that, the whole idea of third place, so they can get a higher price point for that. So they've taken that basic need. But the idea behind this is that for something like Amazon, it's going to be more on the lower end of that scale of that needs. So, and we'll get to it in a minute, but with Walgreens, safety is a higher level of need. Well, I want to be able to talk to somebody about my medical things versus just, I want somebody knowledgeable about that. Or if I'm buying a car, I might find information online, but I want to see, feel, and touch it. So I want to go to a location. So, the idea behind this is the retail store isn't going away. We just have to recognize, there's differences in that. Again, which goes into, because we have so much information, I need to be making sure that I'm focused on either convenience or the customer experience. And then we have to look at, you have to look at each of your customers and what their needs are. Do they value their time or their money? I'm at a point in life where my time is important to me, so I'm willing to pay to have somebody deliver food to me, maybe, if I need to, because I don't have the time to go out. That costs more, but I'm willing to pay for that. So that's my need. Doesn't mean that's everybody's needs, but we ought to be providing that, because if somebody isn't, because I have access to that, then I'll go somewhere else and somebody else will, do that. So let's take the ideas of these two, convenience and then the customer experience, and kind of further explore. So convenience, accessible, certainly location, is an important part of that. Can it be delivered? Are you providing that as a service, to your customer if that's something they want? Mobile device, or is it easy? I mean, sometimes people might have a mobile device or in the store, but it's not easy. Is it easy? So some examples of that, and here again, there's no silver bullet here. What we're trying to do, and our panel's going to talk about in a minute, is just some ideas of things that are taking place, so you can start to think, well, how does that apply in my world, and how can I help out? So convenience. Kroger, Big Red Rooster, we acquired Big Red Rooster at the beginning of the year. They provide brand strategy and experience. Well, they've been working with Kroger to provide a drive-up service. So you can, you're at the office, you order online, you don't want to have to get out of your car, you go over there, you pick it up, there. Again, that's very convenient. Say, hey, and for me, not that it costs anything, but for me, I'd be even willing to pay for that, as a convenience part of that. Chick-fil-A, another example of that. So much of the traffic has been going through, shifted to drive-through versus dining experience. They've come in and started adding a second drive-through lane so the customer doesn't have to wait. So here again, these are just examples from a convenience standpoint. How can you make it more convenient for your customer? Because if you're not, your competitor will. So you've got to be thinking about that. LL Bean. LL Bean, long history of being an online, retailer. They've just started a new store concept. But one of the parts of that new store concept is that you're seeing cash wraps here. And these cash wraps are so if somebody buys something online and if their preference is if they don't want it or exchange it or whatever return, it makes it very easy for them to be able to return it there versus a laborious process. So just one of the ideas, again, about from a convenience standpoint. Microsoft, we just completed Microsoft's flagship store in New York. One of the elements of this is just when you purchase something, you're not having to go to a cash wrap for that. You've got salespeople that have tools right in front of you that you can purchase something. Here again, very easy, very convenient. Then you got groups like Uber Rush, Uber Eats, that now, so it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to provide this service, but you might want to team up with somebody like Uber or somebody like that to have that delivered. Again, just throwing out ideas that if your customers are looking for convenience, then these are the types of things that you might want to consider. So the other part of that is customer experience. Is it educational? Publix, I think somebody from Publix is here. The Publix right around the corner from me has got a educational area where they have cooking classes. People coming in, they're learning something. And they always have, in peak hours, they have somebody cooking something out in the store. And you can go over there and, these things go together, so you buy it and it's all right there. Again, you're educating your customer. It's easy. Here's how we do it. I'm going to go use that. So these are some ideas: interactive, friendly. Does it create a emotional connection? So these are some of the things that, from a customer experience, we need to provide. So this is an example of at Microsoft where it's educational. Somebody's able to and interactive, where they're able to sit down and kind of use the tools. Another one, this is the Microsoft flagship, where it's interactive. They're able to use the things, learn how to use it. They're interacting with it, so it makes it fun and as an experience to go into that store. Under Armour, Big Red Rooster created the whole brand experience. This is their flagship store in Chicago on Michigan Avenue. And the unique thing about this centerpiece is people are walking down Michigan Avenue and see this in the rotunda, because it's a high traffic area. What's now has happened is people are starting to come in off the street and they're taking selfies with this kind of iconic or unique figure there, and they're posting them on social media. So they're getting all this free publicity by customers coming in, they can see it from the street, saying, hey, I like that. They're getting photographs with that and posting that. But again, it's about the customer experience. I mean, families are coming in, getting a picture taken. It's pretty fascinating just to watch, the experience around that. But again, just an idea of how do you engage, your consumer, with the physical store.
Although Tim and I were joking, it's about the Cubs logo and not
Exactly. Exactly.
This is American Express. They decided that they needed a whole lounge concept in airports. And they've gone really high end with nice wines. They've got an executive chef that's in there preparing the food. It's a very high end experience. This is a quote from Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's a big stakeholder in American Express. Obviously, he really likes the concept of it, almost. So now like I said, I've kind of sort of set the stage for the ideas behind this. Now we'd like to hear from our esteemed panelist here on some of the things that they're doing at Alamo and at Walgreens.
Good morning. We're a little bit of a unique operation in that most theater operators are commodity operators. They do not control their product. They put it on the screen. They sell popcorn. They sell Coke. They're commodity operators. We have taken a different approach to that, wherein we offer a very unique experience in the physical plants. Number one, you can see a variety of what we've done here. In the upper left is a 1916 historic that we took over in San Francisco that had been closed since 1991. We spent an exorbitant amount of money on it. However, that facility is going to generate about $12 million this year out of 5 screens and 580 seats. We do a number of new builds, but the key is that the brand is everything to us. The Alamo Drafthouse Cinema is a brand that people recognize once we get into a market as being, number one, very unique. Number two, that is very convenient. We're very social media driven and app driven. You can go online, book your seats, pre-order your food and drink. We have food and drink at your seat, delivered to your seat. We have probably, out of our total revenue stream, about 10% of our revenue is driven by very interesting content-driven events. Sing-alongs, special events. We even do pyrotechnics in the auditoriums if we're doing a really campy action film from 20 years ago. But the convenience factor is all-encompassing to us because in most cases, people who are deciding to go see a film, it's what film, what location, what's convenient to them. Well, we make it as convenient as possible. Click your app, pick your film, pick your seat. We're a fully reserved seat. So I think our online ticketing sales right now are running about 80% of our total sales, which is unheard of. Our fill rates are the highest in the industry. We'll operate some locations at 50% occupancy.
So versus a cookie cutter approach, I mean, obviously you can see all the different facades here, and that was, kind of the fascinating thing as I look at this. If I compare to, let's take the casual dining sector, which, as a general has been hurt in the industry because the millennials don't want necessarily cookie cutter the same thing. They want something unique to be able to go to. That's kind of what you've created. It's not the cookie cutter, across all these. You're very unique and very high dense, areas.
And very localized, Steve.
Yeah.
Our brand is, as I said, all important, but it's localized brand. Whether it be in San Francisco, Loudoun County, Kansas City, Denver, Houston. These are movie theaters for movie lovers in their local market. So everything is focused on that. In many cases, we'll have up to 50 craft beers on tap from local brewers. So it engages the audience in that fact that not only are they going to see a movie, but that they can experience the local craft nature of their market.
So it's almost like when we saw Topgolf, for those of y'all that saw the demonstration on that, it's kind of it's not just playing golf,
Correct.
It's not just seeing a movie, it's the whole experience, behind that, and the fact that from a time standpoint, people don't have time, I'm going to go to dinner and then I'm separately going to go to a movie.
That's right.
I can do that all together.
Compresses the experience.
So here's, we showed, this was the kind of the several on that one, and then here's some more on the outside. I don't know if anything unique to refer to.
And what's interesting about us is the company was started in 1997 by a husband and wife who simply didn't like the multiplex experience. And the interesting piece of that is they started up in Austin. At that point, I controlled 92% of the Austin market, wearing another jersey. And we were multiplex theaters. We were movies, popcorn, and Coke. They opened up a single screen. We didn't even know they existed. We then sold our company and exited the platform. This same group approached me then about 5 years ago and said, we want to go national. You've taken 2 companies national. We want to go national. So we grew it from 7 locations. We'll open our 25th next month in Brooklyn, New York. So in the next 24 months, we'll have over 50 locations. And to be real blunt, we struggled. My first question when I came on board was, is this scalable? It's great in Austin. Let's keep Austin weird, and this certainly was weird. But we've now opened in Denver, Colorado, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and we struggle with the scalability. But the overarching benefit is consistency in brand and convenience to the customer. That's really it. And what is the value margin to the customer? A good example of that is you go to a typical conventional theater and you'll pay $8 for a bucket of popcorn. Well, in many cases, we offer it for free because, frankly, that isn't our sales pitch. Our sales pitch is have a beer, order a meal, enjoy the experience, and come back, and come back.
And the more popcorn you eat, the more beer you drink.
Well, there is that, Steve.
You want to talk about the interior?
Every one of these, and Steve pointed out the situation in Chicago at Under Armour. If you notice on the right, that is the lawgiver from Planet of the Apes. Every one of our interiors, we create a photo op opportunity for people. And we also create what we call mobile photo ops. A good example was Finding Dory. We teamed up with the studio, we created a photo op so kids could come in and their parents could snap pictures. And we would take the photos also and we post them online so that their friends can see them at Finding Dory and have that experience. So in this case, that's Lawgiver, that's one in Austin. To the left, unfortunately, that theater's closed.
Oh.
But that's all right. In Denver, I think we have a Yeti coming out of the ceiling at the lobby.
Yeah, I don't think I've
But it makes it fun for people. Here's a great example. That is from The Shining. That is the hallway at the hotel in The Shining. And that's the photo opportunity there.
But what a great way, again, to engage the customer. They put something, then hashtag, whatever it is, Alamo Drafthouse, and it's just that you're creating your own branding strategy of that your customers are, you're not having to pay for that, and they're automatically selling your brand.
Exactly. I always get a kick out of this. That is a big wheel sitting there.
So we're going to turn to Walgreens. I'm going to get back and then ask some questions towards the end. But John, why don't you talk about what you guys have done?
So again, good morning. As we try and evaluate here some differences between Tim and I, and as Steve was building this panel, certainly you're going to hear from me the opposite end of the spectrum, only because, as many of you know, Walgreens is a legacy brand. We have 8,200 domestic locations, and so the concept here is how do we bring cost, convenience, and customer experience across all 8,200 locations in a way that's relevant to our customer. I will tell you that if you think of Walgreens as a single entity or a single occasion, that's incorrect. That we look at it in three ways, in the sense of pharmacy, health and wellness as an occasion, beauty as a second occasion, and then the front end retail, chips and dip and Hallmark cards and all the things that you run in for as the third. So trying to create a single customer experience within those three occasions, I believe, or we believe, is incorrect, that they certainly deserve their own thought process and development. So let's take beauty. And Steve asked, who are your competitors today? Certainly for us, it's Ulta and Sephora and a lot of the department stores. So creating a separate customer experience for us in this beauty category is something that we're currently going after. Pharmacy and wellness, we talked about trust. Mm-hmm. We talked about how that whole universe of services is changing and how we can bring that closer to to both the cost and the convenience of that consumer. Only because the question is, do we make it more retail-like? Not in a bad way, but in the sense of, do I spend a couple of hours in an emergency room, in a hospital, or do I go to a more convenient retail clinic within a Walgreens? So those aspects are part of that equation. And then the third, that front-end retail, it is still very cost-driven, and we've talked about this for many years at Walgreens. The wonderful thing about our locations is that they are on very prime corners, as many of you know. That does bring a price point and a cost of real estate. And so how does that translate to what now is being impacted by online and quicker delivery and Uber deliveries and everything else? So there's a balance there. You're also seeing some interior slides, and I briefly spoke about that aspect of 8,200 locations. I will tell you, I probably have 6 or 7 branding and navigational packages that are out there in these locations. So, when I show you this, that's the new one, right? But there's a lot of old ones out there, old tired ones. And I know Steve and many of you on the project management side will understand this. We really today at Walgreens talk about store touches, right? And how to bring those locations, those many locations, in a consistent format. And I will tell you about, this isn't an approximate number, but we're going to probably do about 20,000 store touches in these 8,200 locations, trying to bring them into a more consistent experience across the fleet of stores. So that's the challenge for us today, Steve.
Okay. Let me ask some questions, and you touched on it a minute ago, but what competitors, and I think you all have to look at this, what competitors do you have today that you didn't have 5 to 10 years ago?
So Tim, you want to start on that one?
And yours is more about the industry since you're a new company, but from an industry standpoint, you have competitors.
Well, in reality, we're a 20-year-old company. It's interesting. Years ago, I was involved with an Australian company called Village Roadshow. And we brought what was known as gold class cinemas across the water, which was very high-end, motorized recliner, exceptional food, exceptional facility. When we brought that across, the bad news is we opened the first one in November of 2008. It was a complete disaster, and our managing partners couldn't seem to understand how bad the economy was here. Those have now become iPicks. They got rolled into that. But what that created was, in reality, a laser focus by the industry on the in-theater dining and beverage concept. You had Alamo out there doing a few of these in kind of a hometown operation. But then it flipped around, and Alamo approached me and said, look, we want to go national. And what we found is we now have competitors in that arena, from AMC to Regal to Studio Movie Grill, Movie Tavern. You can go down the list at varying levels. The good news is, for the industry as a whole, it has been fantastic. You can read in the press that our industry is constantly being sent the way of the Titanic. TV came in, the theater business is going to die. VCRs came in, the theater business is going to die. DVDs, you go down the list. The reality is that in the last 3 years, box office has actually increased. We're getting more people through the door. And that's primarily happening not at the conventional theaters, but at the locations that are discriminate about their customer base and the experience.
But you have on demand, you have Apple TV, you have so many of these things to be able to stream and stuff like that.
And I have all those at home.
To the point is, you had to create a great customer experience.
That's
in order
correct.
for them to go there. If you'd left the traditional theater, you know, it'd be dying. But you had to do something different, which is what we all have to
That's
recognize. And one of the points here is we all now have competitors that we didn't have 5 or 10 years ago. John, how about you?
So for us, Steve, and again, I'll break it up into the segments. Obviously, in the pharmacy business, it's not your normal competitors, although those are the ones that are most evident. You know, you see big box pharmacies, you see grocery store pharmacies. Everybody, you know, is now in the pharmacy business. But that's really just the front of it. But really the competition for us is health system alliances that group all of your health coverage into an entity that may not include Walgreens or that. So,
Right.
you know, that aspect of beyond just what we normally talk about in regards to technology and locations and brick and mortar, it is partnerships and associations that are beginning to be competitors in our businesses. So,
Yeah, so for you, the healthcare, I know some of them are going to these online healthcare suppliers for drugs and things like that, so that's a competitor. I just read this past week, Amazon has just bought a health and beauty company out of Chicago that they're going to now partner, or they're partnering with or bought or something like that. You know, so we continue to have competition. So again, more information that we have, you're either going to focus on cost or make sure you're focused on convenience or customer experience. So talk about your demographic profile and what you're doing, you know, kind of looking at your demographic profile. Tim?
Well, to the benefit of John's company, the demographic profile is working in his advantage. To us, the constant fight we have in the business, and particularly our business, is the demographic is getting older, so we cater heavily to that demographic, to my demographic, to be real blunt. However, we need to build that base underneath of the younger customer. And frankly, that's a little difficult because a family of 4 to go to a movie at a conventional theater now it's a $100 proposition every time. So we need to offer the convenience, we need to offer more. $100 at one of our locations includes a meal, beverages, a great experience. At a conventional theater is a tub of popcorn and a couple of Cokes. And that's the differentiator that we put out there. The other thing that we do is during the off-school periods, during the summer, we offer free shows for schools. We bust the kids in. And when I say free shows, we also go out and we promote movie making in schools. So our staff is in the schools helping the kids develop. They make short subjects, whatever. We then bring them to the theater and we put it up on the big screen for them, which is a big thrill for an 8 or 9-year-old to be able to see the product that they created on the big screen with their peers. It's a lot of fun for them. So we're trying to build that base constantly. And
So to me, that's part of both brand awareness and customer experience
correct.
kind of combined.
That's correct. That's correct. But to offer it in a free atmosphere, now keep in mind, look, they still spend money for, you know, Coke and whatever when they're at the venue. But the whole point is to bring that brand awareness, locational awareness, and experience.
So John, is your demographic changing?
So, Steve, I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not so much changing, but I think we're getting more specific to understanding the demographic makeup of those customers coming into our locations. And I'll speak to, you know, we talk about customer experience, and it's not just the box, it's just not the 4 walls and the brick and mortar, but it's also at the shelf level for us. So understanding the demographic, understanding why that occasion is being created within a Walgreens, and bringing that experience right to the shelf, I think, is an important refinement in the things that we talk about on a daily basis. It's just not the overall. It's just not the perimeter branding that you see or the navigational that gets you to it. But once you're there, how do you react appropriately in a very determined way to that customer demographic that's shopping? May it either be in beauty, convenience, or health and wellness.
Yeah. When we were preparing for this, one of the things you said, and I kind of took note of, he says, you can't be all things to all people, particularly you got, 8,200, locations. So what have you said, okay, we're going to focus here or not here, or how do y'all view that?
Yeah, certainly. I think that in all of us as development professionals understand that not all locations are created with the same demographics and the same business drivers. And there are locations that skew to health and wellness and pharmacy. And so the emphasis is that in the customer experience. There are locations that skew to beauty, right? And then the customer experience and the drivers around that is skewed in that direction. And then obviously convenience, being on the corner. And if it is, what I call a chip and dip market, you want to hit them with a cost-conscious front end piece.
Have you guys thought about like a delivery solution if somebody, wants that part of it, or are there other unique things that you're thinking about for the future?
Yeah, well, we do have an online ability to access some of our products or most of our products. But I think the real opportunity for us today is to continue to build that ability to do more transactions within the pharmacy arena. Now, is that through doing it online? Is it through some other reinvention of, having to pick up or Uber delivery of your pharmacy? Now, there's some regulatory issues that you deal with, right?
Just a few.
Just a few in every state. That's quite different, but there are things that are being challenged in that regard, Steve.
Okay. We've got about 5 minutes left. Want to kind of open it up for questions from the audience. Any questions?
So I know CVS is here too, but how are you reacting, I guess, to CVS now kind of partnering with Target and going into these locations and kind of converging with others? Like, what is your response, or what do you think the future is?
Well, I think here, I love competition. It keeps both of us smart, right? One of the worst things I think that can happen within any industry is not having a burning platform and just kind of riding out. I think the aspect of, convenience and point of sale is important, but I will again bring you back to that aspect of alliances. If you are a consumer and your drug is part of a CVS alignment to that health system and it costs you 20% more, will you go to the Walgreens for it? I don't know. That's an answer that still needs to be resolved.
Hi. I was just wondering how you brand your spaces. I mean, as a consumer or as a designer, I mean, I look at that, and to me, it could be anywhere. It could be CVS, it could be Walgreens. I mean, they all blend to me, right? When I look at the picture on the right. Is there any, is it because you just want to be like everybody else, or do you want to do something different, or I just wonder, and also for me, I always, when I go to these places, I wonder about lighting. I always wonder why the lighting is so bright and white, and how it's not very attractive. It's not very friendly, right? I mean, you look at, no, seriously. I mean, and I'm sure you know.
You're on.
Yeah, no. Here, let me answer your question. Let me answer your question directly.
Right.
And the simple answer is this: badly. Yeah, the experience is it's a bad experience because the concept of the merchants was really no need to focus the experience more directly
Right.
to that occasion. Absolutely, and that's why I spoke about that separation. What you're seeing here is a homogeneous kind of neutral experience that covers all three segments. And to your point, which is a wonderful one, and that's why I'm probably sitting on this stage here, that it is an inappropriate one today and moving forward. That the concepts of more relevant customer experiences that are driven to that area within the Walgreens is more appropriate. However, the challenge is, and I would love your opinion, how do you do that for beauty, which is to the right, and then how do you do it separately for pharmacy? Are they the same? Are they not? So, and again, I don't pretend to have that answer today, but certainly it's one that is currently being evaluated and looked at. I believe that, and especially on the beauty side, which is very, very experiential, that this overlit, sterile environment may not be very appropriate.
Hurry up, wrap up that Verizon concept.
It's I mean, lighting, as everybody knows, lighting is one of the most important things in space. And I always look, for example, you go to a typical supermarket and you have this lights, right?
Yes.
But then you go to a Whole Foods, you have a very different, type of lighting.
Yes, yes, more determined lighting,
And
right?
it really it creates a completely different atmosphere from that, But anyway, sorry. Who else?
Don't disagree. Don't disagree.
I'm not going to throw it all the way back there. Drinks last night. I'd probably go that direction.
Hi, I'm just curious about the success of the Dwayne Reed sort of concept downtown New
Steve,
York.
will you take the Walgreens slide off the screen?
I
Put
mean-
Alamo up there.
I'm good at that
Holy
one.
mackerel.
I'm enjoying it.
I'm sorry, what's your question again?
Let's drink.
The financial district, Dwayne Reed, is sort of like a whole new concept. I don't know if that's being considered. It has the food. It's obviously high concept in a bank building, and wondering how that works and if you think about that kind of renovation at all.
So I was actually discussing this with another colleague earlier yesterday, and so let me ask you: do you approve of sushi and deodorant in the same store?
That's actually my local Dwayne Reed as well. The sushi, yeah.
I guess you as a consumer will tell me that if that is appropriate. I think it may work in some very small locations. In others, maybe not. There are a few locations. There's actually one here in Miami at the Ritz that just opened that has the expanded food service and some other amenities as part of it. And we've talked about it earlier. This kind of divergence of you sell a watch, but you also try and sell a cup of coffee or a tattoo. Maybe that would work for Walgreens. I'm not sure. That's what you guys I'm sorry, did I answer your question? No, thanks. Thanks.
Yeah. Question?
Hi, John and Tim. John, it's nice to see you again. It's Anthony Thompson. We worked a long time together at McDonald's at Oak Brook.
Yep.
Hey, my question for you both is, are you finding that your signage, your branding, your iconic elements, specifically, for example, Walgreens, if you could put the Walgreens slide back up, that'd be great.
Or a McDonald's one if I had one.
So seriously though, I noticed that the mortise and pedestal does it appear to be a part of the almost said McDonald's, of the Walgreens branding? Are you finding that it's because it was challenging to get approved or what? But that, to me, when I always saw that Morris and Pedestal was very, it was, you know.
Very
I
iconic to
knew
you.
it was Walgreens, but now you're seeing less and less of that. So in general, as we're moving forward into this 21st century, I'm wondering whether or not that's even relevant anymore. Is it just the word and the script, or what are you all finding that is relevant versus not relevant anymore? Thank you.
So again, a good question. I will tell you that the mortar and pestle is not part of our logo icons any longer. I believe that's partly due to two reasons. One, from a younger generation, I don't know that many youngsters understand what a mortar and pestle did in a pharmacy at one point in time. So that iconography, I don't think makes sense. The current icon, and it really doesn't show in this one only because of, well, it's behind the glass, but it is the corner W. So the association of Walgreens on the corner of happy and healthy is the marketing tagline. And as all of us know, being either design or development professionals, what we design needs to communicate the brand, to support the brand in every aspect. Now, I've got probably 4,000, 5,000 mortar and pestles out there, right? And that's what I deal with consistently in reverting, taking that away, and at least bringing it to today's standard of the corner of happy and healthy. So that's why you're not seeing it. It is something that we're moving away from. Unlike McDonald's, where the Golden Arches has been consistent and a recognizable iconography through its many years of history, Walgreens has changed some of it in the past. All right, one for Tim, please.
Gina, you got a question?
Okay, we're done.
Okay.
Nice.
One final question. Here you go.
This is an easy one. I've always actually admired the fact that you're persistent about taking the corner. So I keep waiting for one that has happy on one side and healthy on the other. So interesting in your rendering that you don't exploit the corner as an identity and the logo is on the other side. Attached to that question is, what do you think about the Washington Nationals logo?
I can't comment about that second part of your question, but here's what I will tell you. In the past, again, I've only been there a couple of years. In the past, the focus of the exterior for Walgreens has been a very architecturally driven mindset. I think part of what I am trying to do is bring a more understanding of that corner of happy and healthy to all aspects of the brick and mortar or the branding that I can influence. I think there's a lot of work for us to do. Part of it was due to the type of real estate transactions that this company had done in the past. It's a large developer model. So, right, we kind of say, okay, we want to be here. We find a developer. We walk away from it. They provide a nice building. We then operate it. That's also changing, being a little bit more in control and a little bit more influential about driving brand design and brand architecture to support what we really are and who are we going to become with the Boots Alliance globally.
Okay, unfortunately we're out of time, but I want to thank you guys for a nice and lively discussion this morning. Yeah, great job.
Thanks for caring.